Hey guys, Omni here. Last night I went and saw the Super Mario Brothers movie, and I'm going to give you guys my spoiler-free thoughts on the film. And I will say that right out of the gate, I had a blast with this movie, man. It has such a reverence and love for the Mario mythos and lore. It's never ashamed of it at all. It really embraces some of the more fantastical and wilder elements of it, especially like with the game references, the power-ups, the mechanics, and the world of the Mushroom Kingdom and how it operates and such. It's just really enriched with that like attention to detail and just fascination and love for the source material. The film is directed by Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic. They've worked on things like Teen Titans Go and Teen Titans Go to the Movies and a few other things, but those are the most prominent ones. Those are the ones that I've actually seen and quite enjoyed that tone, especially Go to the Movies. And it has a little bit of that flavor here as well, that little tongue-in-cheek nature to it. It's written by Matthew Fogel, who I've only, out of his work, the only thing I've seen is the Lego Movie 2. I haven't actually seen Rise of Gru, and he's only got a few other credits aside from that. And I do think that the script could have been better. There's a couple of times where the dialogue does get a little too generic, but what I will appraise this for, this is Illumination. Like, it is coming from Illumination's animation studio. So, like, they've not had a great track record for me for films that they've made that I've enjoyed. They tend to make movies that really appeal to the lowest common denominator when it comes to like children's flicks. Just noise on the screen to get people to get their kids to sit down and pay attention and like just eat at their souls. But I gotta say that this movie did not do that. Like, it never really went for the lowbrow, bottom of the barrel, easy humor. And it really does kind of have this like very jovial, yet wholesome and relatable tone at its core that I really did enjoy. And it just, again, I think they nailed the world here. I think they really did a good job at honing in on the core aspects of what makes the Mario Brothers world come to life. And there's a lot of love in this for longtime players as well. There's just the attention to detail in this is just astounding. From like just the stuff in the background, the animation is easily the best that Illumination has ever put out. It's phenomenal. I did read that they had to invent whole new animation techniques in-house to make this be up to par for what Nintendo was wanting out of it and for what they wanted to present as well. And I think they did a really good job, especially with the animation. While this is still very much a kid's movie, I don't think you have to be a kid to enjoy this. Obviously, it's not going to like, it's not full of innuendos or anything like this, but I don't think it's like so egregious like some of the other films that they've put out to where the adults in the audience are going to just be like bashing themselves in the head with a hammer. I had a really good time with this, and even the theater that I saw with, it wasn't jam-packed because I went like way late at night because of my schedule and whatnot, and plus be less kids when I did. And while there was a couple of families in there, there was a couple of people like myself coming in to check it out, and everybody seemed to be having a really good time with the movie. I think the score in this movie is also phenomenal. I think they do a really good job at remixing a lot of Koji Kondo's original scores from the game and kind of giving it this new kind of flavor. Brian Tyler remixes these songs together in a great way, and there's honestly some times throughout the movie where the music swelled at the right time, and God, I can tell you, like, I never like cried, but like, you know, when something hits that's like from your childhood and stuff, and you see it, and it just like brings a little bit of a gloss and a bit of a glaze to your eye, dude. That happened to me a couple of times when these moments just culminated together in this great way between the performances, the visuals, and just the music. From that, I want to come back down into the cast. Of course, we have Chris Pratt playing Mario, and I know that was a big part of contention when the whole thing was announced. And at the end of the day, I think it did a really good job. While it's definitely not Charles Martinet or Lou Albano, I think they did a really good job of finding this little middle ground. The more you listen to it, the more you hear it, the more he interacts throughout the film. I think it really, really worked in the end. And Charles Martinet does get a really nice little cameo in this. While I still think voice actors are still actors and that we can hire them for these big budget movies, we don't need celebrities, I think at the end of the day, he did a good job. Charlie Day was a great choice for Luigi because if you've seen any of his other performances and just his general shtick at all, he's got this manic kind of frantic behavior about the way that he talks, and that the pitch of his voice is just right for a Luigi that actually has dialogue and words to spout out. And I think he really does dive and melt away into this character quite well. Anya Taylor-Joy does a pretty solid job as Peach, though I feel like with the material that they gave Peach, I think that's where the writing kind of suffered the most, because her dialogue is extremely generic for most of the time, and it doesn't really give her a lot to really work with and shine. I feel like anybody could have probably done this and, you know, did just fine. But I will say that Peaches, they've expanded on her more than I think that they have in the games in a lot of ways. She definitely takes like a forefront role in the film. They also change up the whole princess in the castle thing by having her actually lead the charge with Mario against Bowser and his armies, actually leading her kingdom and being a princess, and like showing her like level of leadership, the respect and adoration that she's earned from her people, and having her take a charge in that with her, basically her newfound knight Mario charging alongside her. She's our gateway for Mario, who is new to this world, and you know, she gets him acquainted with everything, and she's kind of a little bit of a mentor because she's been here her entire life. They also expand on her backstory a little bit in a way that the games have never really kind of touched upon why she's the only human in the Mushroom Kingdom, which was a nice little touch. There's a couple things they did in this that expand upon some things in the games we've always kind of like wondered about, but never really dove too much into. Jack Black as Bowser was great. I can't think of a better choice off of the top of my head. He just gives himself into this, and you can just like, when you're hearing him perform, you can hear him perform. I can only imagine that in the vocal booth, he is just animated as hell while he's giving this performance. You know, there's some very strong Jack Black-isms that make it into this as well. There's a couple of music sequences that even come in here with Bowser, which are real fun. What they do with Bowser is also something that's heavily, very much so, a center focus of the games, but it's never really outwardly stated so much as well, in Odyssey it kind of is, but they really focus in on an aspect of Bowser that we've kind of all along since kind of suspected, and it's a lot of fun. He's great, and he's also intimidating. While they do have fun with him, and he has fun in this role, and he's has some things that definitely get some laughs out of you, he is still a formidable presence and a threat to this world, and we get to see that in the opening sequence, which we saw in one of the trailers when he attacks the Penguin Kingdom, or the Ice Kingdom, or whatever they called it. That was a fun little bit, man. Michael Keegan Key as Toad is fine. They went more the adventurer Toad route in this one, and it worked for the most part because they were going off on an adventure. And I thought he did fine in this role. Toad doesn't really stand out all that much. He's just kind of like a punchline here and there. A little side supporting character is all. He doesn't really get too much focus. And of course, Seth Rogen plays Donkey Kong. And this is the one where I wasn't all that sold on, honestly. That was the one I was the most excited to hear. I wanted to hear Donkey Kong and his laugh, and honestly, I just didn't really gel with it. I don't know. He didn't do bad. It's just I could never get past it being Seth Rogen. And also, I don't think the characterization of Donkey Kong was as authentic as the rest of the cast. I thought they did a really good job at being authentic to the characters, but when it came to like Donkey Kong and Cranky Kong, really the entire Jungle Kingdom, I felt like the vibe was off, because like I never really got like from the Donkey Kong Country show or the games or any of those, it didn't really, while aesthetically it kind of resembles some of that, it didn't tonally kind of fit the vibe for me. I think they nailed the Mario stuff, but they kind of struggled with the Donkey Kong bits. But, you know, there's a lot of great cameos in there as well. There's also, I will say, like an egregious error on their part. There's a particular song that makes an appearance in the film, and the writer of the song is not credited. That is a crime, man. But aside from that, there's just so much love for this world, for both franchises, and the bridging of those together. There's so many little nuggets just sprinkled throughout for not just Mario fans, but Nintendo fans in general. There's a lovely little Easter eggs just sprinkled throughout this thing, and especially if you've played any of the games, there's so much love in here. And the action sequences are a lot of fun. There's so much energy behind every moment and set piece in the film. And again, everything is so varied, just like the kingdoms within the Mario landscape as well, that they really kind of just keep everything going. You know, even going down to like things like Mario Kart and Donkey Kong, Super Mario, the whole shebang, man. Even going back to the OG Mario stuff, there's some aesthetics that are very much so homaged from that. Some in very overt ways, and there's a couple little like nods there that only if you're like a real deep dive Mario fan you might catch. I went into like one critique that I've had so far, so let me talk about some of the things that I wasn't too thrilled about. Again, I really enjoyed the film, but these are just some of the kind of things that just didn't really do it for me. I talked about the Jungle Kingdom. I talked about the Donkey Kong vibe felt being off. Another thing is that they kind of keep Mario and Luigi mostly separated through a bulk of the film. And maybe this is a minor spoiler, but I think it's alluded to in the trailers, but not as much Luigi and Mario as I would have liked in a Mario Brothers movie. And while I love the score of this movie, there are a couple of 80s needle drops that come out of nowhere in this film that just did not work. There's like maybe one or two you can make an argument for, one of which is extremely played out. Like, we hear it too much at this point. And there's a couple of others that just didn't make any sense for when and where they played. Aside from that, I really did like this movie, man. I loved it. I had a blast. Like, I had some minor critiques or things that just some nitpicks really, but like that's just all it is. I think this is a fun watch. And again, it's a very much a kid's movie, but you don't have to be a kid to enjoy it. Stick around. There's a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene to set up potentially more, but I hope if this does well, we can start to see other Nintendo properties get this kind of love and attention. Give us a Legend of Zelda. Give us a Star Fox movie, man. I would kill for a Star Fox movie. And then we can build up to Super Smash, the movie. I don't think we need to go that far, but like this could expand upon it and share the success with some of these other properties. And I think that could be a really beneficial to Nintendo, who are just now entering this space in a real way. You know, you could argue that the first Super Mario Brothers movie was them entering that space, but let's be real. No. Anyway, guys, have you seen it? What did you think? Sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on this conversation after the video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe if you're not already. And before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends. Mandy Sherritt, Ryan Karen, Jason Coleman, Philly Vane, Yori Coruscant, Margaret Grace, Melito, Robert Anguiano, Raven McGann, Jeffrey Hale, M. Sephiroth, Jake Cantrell, and Josh Lee. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.